Good morning, everyone, and thank you for waking up with me on Up with India. Today, I'll be joined by Naiyym Dingle, a serial entrepreneur and businessman from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and first time author of a controversial new book, Cheating is Not Cheating. Yes, you heard me correctly. That is the title of the book, Cheating is Not Cheating, but we are going to get into all of that. The book is available in Walmart, Barnes and Noble, and other notable retail stores. And Wolf is here with me today to share more about the double-edged perspective that he developed over the years that has led him to authorship and has gotten him in so much trouble with viewers and readers alike. Thank you so much for being here, Wolf. How are you?
Hey, honored to be here. How you feeling? How you feeling?
I'm great. Happy to have you here. I love welcoming people to Delaware, but you're no stranger. You've been in and out of this state for many, many years. I
My
want to
second home.
get into all of the details about your book and everything that you have going on, but I cannot do that. I'd be remiss by doing that because you have such a long history of entrepreneurship, and there's so much there in your story that I really want you to kind of uncover for our viewers so they can get to know you as I've gotten to watch you over the years. So if you could take us back a second and just talk to me about life before becoming an author, growing up in Philadelphia, how was
Got you. Yeah, so 27 years old currently. Um, I grew up, I'm a Philadelphia native, born and raised, been here my entire life. Known for a variety of different endeavors that I embarked on, from music and entertainment to just being involved in nightlife, and now being involved in entrepreneurship and just kind of having my hands in a lot. The journey of becoming an author, I guess I wouldn't say it happened overnight, but I will say the decision was made overnight.
Mhm.
Cause like one day I did just wake up and feel like, what, I'm actually gonna go for it. I'm gonna write a book. But I will say that I was a writer my entire life. Even before I even knew that I was, just going dating back to me being in grade school, and a lot of my teachers commending me for my ability to captivate readers with my unique writing style. And like being a kid and hearing that, it really didn't resonate to me because it's not what I saw myself doing as an adult. I wanted to be a teacher. That was like the first career path that I wanted to go down. I wanted to
Mm.
teach and I wanted to educate even before I started to pursue my passions and like entertainment and things like that. But I just knew that I had the ability to help people understand. And I know that I understand information and I'm able to articulate it in a way that when it's reiterated by me, most people tend to get it. So me knowing that, like even I would lead group projects and stuff like in grade school and different things like that, because like I had the ability to not only present because I was good at speaking, the confidence to present, and as well as being able to dissect the information so that anybody I'm presenting to can grasp hold of it. The way it translated into writing was because I kind of found my way. Like I started doing music earlier, maybe like I started to get involved with film, and I started to find a passion in that, which also involved me writing. And then I had a mentor of mine tell me, he said, you don't got to limit yourself to just writing music. Even before film, I'm sorry, he said, you can write films, you can write scripts, you can write plays, you can write books. And at the time, I was relatively young, it didn't resonate with me. So as I went on and I went on and I went on, you know what I mean? It just started kind of to hit me like, I'm like, and I always revised people papers and stuff in college too, because like I majored in English. So I took a lot of writing classes in high school. I took journalism. So it was like, well, I got out. I left college early, so it's not like I like finished and got my degree. And but I did. A lot of the writing principles stayed with me. Like it was something that always stuck with me. So I used that my advantage with writing music as well as then going into producing films and web shows, things like that. And now me becoming an author was just like, what's the way that I can articulate my messages? Like I know I'm well spoken. I know I'm able to captivate people with my words, but I want to create something that'll live longer than me and that'll outlast the reach that'll out like grow the reach that I can personally. So I say that to say is like people like picking my brain, people like having conversations with me. They like my perspective. I said, how can I have a conversation with a million people at once if I'm not a million people within myself? Said if I put it in a book, then this is my way to be able to reach a million people and then get an insight on my perspective without me having to physically do it. So that's kind of where the book stemmed from. But like I said, I just felt like I always had a passion for writing, even before I was able to identify with it. It's just something that I always could revert back to and realize like, well, has always been in me.
You talk a lot about that in the beginning part of your book as you introduce yourself and letting people know a little bit about your past. What allowed you or what encouraged you to not give up no matter which avenue or direction that your life kind of took you in? You talked about music, you talked about film, now we're here in authorship, but what encouraged you to stay dedicated and hungry to be successful despite not, sticking with just one certain path?
See, I think so. Where my ambition comes from really just goes back to like a testament of me being a child and just like going through a lot of medical issues at a young age. Like, you know what I mean? I was born prematurely. I had a lot of surgeries through the first 10 years of my life. I spent a lot of time in Philadelphia, St. Christopher Hospital for Children. And like in that hospital, I always felt like I was targeted. Like I felt like I always had the why me mindset, right? Because I used to be like, well, why can't I have a normal childhood like most kids? Or like I'm not medically cleared to play sports, or like, they telling me certain things like I'm not gonna live to see a certain age or grow to be a certain size. And me being in this hospital with children, I'm watching children die every day. You know what I mean? Like I could be bedmates with somebody and then they could pass away. So like once I kind of felt like I developed the mindset that like the world kind of rejected me at birth. So like it was no more fear that could be instilled into me because I grasped in on like I'm not even supposed to be here. Like they told my mom I had a slim chance at making it because she went in a birth. She birthed me so early within the development of her pregnancy. So like for me it was like I have nothing to lose. If I was already threatened with losing my life in that matter, I had nothing else to lose. How it translated as me getting older, because I started to go from that victim mindset to the survivor mindset. I had realized that everything that I went through, I survived. So there was no real reason for me to hold on to it and feel like, why me? I started to realize that it was actually set up for me to have this mindset for me to be able to do the things I do. I don't sweat things that don't work because I found what works within the things that didn't work. So like I don't believe in failing. I believe in taking what I can learn from whatever I did. Because I always feel like you're gonna learn and you're gonna earn everything you go into if you allow yourself to see it from that perspective. So all of the things that I did, I felt like were just like transitioning me to each level. It was just like smooth transition. Like, okay, if I started with the music, then I got into film and now I'm an author. All of those things got one thing in common. The common denominator is being a writer. So if this was another way for me to, and I'm getting back into film. Film is my ultimate passion. So like when we think about what's next for me or what I plan to do long term,
Don't get into that yet. Don't get into that.
yeah. So it just that's what the ambition and the mindset came from. Just feeling like I was rejected at birth. So it was like really no other excuse that I can make. And then like I always just look at it like I got an opportunity, and I'm going to capitalize on anything that. And I just don't, like I said, I'm fearless when it comes to going after what I want. If I want it, I don't see I don't see nothing in contrast to that. I want that. Like that's just that. And that's
Was
how
there
I am with everything.
was there any message that your mom instilled in you at a young age? Talking to you, there is so much wisdom that comes with your experiences, and you're still young. You're 27 years
Yeah.
old, but that doesn't
Yeah.
come from just anywhere. So I wonder, were there any key messages that she instilled in you at a young age, or was this something that you developed over time?
It was a blend of both. Like, my mom is like one of the most authentic people I've ever met. And I think I can accredit like my authenticity to her, like just our household. Like we was raised. Like one thing I will say, like what I appreciate most is like my mom raised us to be outspoken. So like she allowed us to challenge her perspective as long as we wasn't being disrespectful. So she would say things like, although I'm the mom, I'm not perfect and I'm not always right. So like I'm not gonna shut y'all down and shut y'all voice out, you know what I mean? But we just knew what lines not to cross. Another thing she always instilled into me was to just go for it. Like, you know what I mean? She'd just be like, if it don't work, at least you'll know why it didn't work. And it's like it ain't really about like it not working and you soaking in it, but really like what you take from what didn't work. You know what I mean? She'll say it ain't really about the setback, it's about the get back. So like that was something that stuck with me because and then she never repressed us in no way. Like if I told her I didn't want to go to school no more, she supported it. If I told her I wanted to go back, she supported it. She just kind of gave us the will to roam, and she put us in a position, like me and all of my siblings, to be independent, outspoken, and to be fearless. Like, you know what I mean? So it was certain things that I learned as a child just by having the freedom to be myself. That I feel like most people didn't learn it till early in their adult years when they actually had the freedom outside of the constraints of their parents. My mom never put constraints on me. So like my wisdom comes from me having responsibilities so young that most people probably didn't get until they was 18, 19, 20. I was 9, 10 years old, being able to travel wherever I wanted. You know what I mean? Without, and this was just before the era of cell phones, but my mom had allowed us to because she trusted in our decision making, and she had already trained us to know how to travel and get home. Like, you know what I mean? Like, even from 3, 4, 5 years old, my mom would take us places and make us remember how to get home. She was like, "What stop do we get off at if we on public transportation, or what block do you live on, or what address?" So that was always my advantage. Like, I felt like I was given real life predicaments and situations so young to be able to gain that wisdom. And that's where it kind of shows up now in my early age.
Believe that everything happens for a reason. I mean, even the story that you talked about being born premature, and having that experience of just seeing a life kind of go in and out from the different people that were in the hospital that you were in. I think that by seeing that, it also contributed to making you kind of mature
Yeah,
at a very young age. Could you agree with that?
yeah, definitely. I was like I was always told that like I was like advanced or mature or like just like ahead of my time, and like I could say like it is because of my experiences, even starting that young, because I got an experience to life like that. Death was real, really young. So like I didn't take life for granted, like you know what I mean. And then I also got to see where opportunities were stripped from so many people so young. So I didn't take that for granted neither. So like I appreciated being when they well, I started playing sports before they medically cleared me, but when they actually did medically clear me to be able to play sports because of the condition I had with my heart, I was grateful for that because I knew that like it was so many people that couldn't walk or that lost their life in total. So I never took none of that for granted. You know what I mean? I think it made me humble in a sense. But at the same time, I experienced real bad depression in that during that time because I spent a lot of time in the hospital by myself. My mom would be working 12-hour shifts. My siblings was too young to come up there, and I just felt so alone. So I think that like that made me appreciate like socializing with people as well. And that's where my level of compassion comes in, that because like just being able to help people in a way that I felt like I would have wanted in everything I ever did. So like when I stopped rapping, I started managing artists because I wanted a manager, throughout my career. So like that's the way I view life. Like I try to be that beacon of light for the things that I wanted when I was lacking. So
Mhm.
like you know what I mean. But my wisdom, just getting back to the question in total, I just think that is a testament to all my experiences. Even in my teenage years, I was 16 with a kid in a car. So like most people don't have responsibility that young. I had my first apartment at 18. I never went back since. So it's like I went through a lot of real life stuff so young, like to where though I'm already seasoned to be like going to my next level with discipline and focus.
Mhm. Talk to me about some of those films that you ended up producing. Like you said, uh, you kind of touched on it a little bit, that mental health piece and going through depression, which I'm sure had led you to wanting to start to write, and that writing led you to rapping, but it also led you to film. Talk to me about how you expressed yourself in that art and the work that you did in that regard.
So we during my career as an artist, as a rapper, I always like directed my own music videos. But I knew, so I was like I had started managing personalities and influencers, even at the time of me being a rapper, and I wanted a way to combine our platforms because I'm like, everybody's not meant to be a rapper. How can we maximize on all of these followers that we have? So I said, all right, let's come up with a web show. So I created a web show. It's called Undefined, and it's like it's legendary in Philly. You know what I mean? And even in the surrounding areas, it's something that I felt like it really put its imprint on the culture. And we had did that before YouTube was as big as it is now. So like I felt like we had heavy influence over shows that followed it because we set a blueprint for like picking up a camera and I'm not saying we were the first to do it, but I just felt like the success that we sustained and the way in which we did it, and we did it from a different perspective as opposed to just doing like a film that kind of like highlighted like violence and stuff like that. We took a whole different approach. You know what I mean? I wanted to focus on making people feel good. I'm real big on that. So I know that like one of the highest forms of making somebody feel good is making them laugh. So we took a comedic approach with it, and that kind of stemmed about from me just wanting to combine all of our platforms and kind of like gauge that. And like I know how psychologically I know what captivates people when watching, and like how to get a message across. So it wasn't like it was like no deep message behind it. It literally was just me wanting to help the influencers in Philly, wanting to combine their platforms, wanting to help the people that was under my entertainment company, and at the same time be able to help the people by providing them with an experience of laughter. I would say like that, like the way, and like that was like the one web show we did. I had a lot of film that I started that hadn't got out, so I felt like moving forward, I'm more so dedicated to the task completion. So if I start a film, it's my goal to finish it. So Undefined was something that we started, was able to complete a whole season. We got through midway through season two before it kind of like took a turn for the left. And I told myself that I don't want to start no more projects that I'm not going to complete. So as where I stand now as an author and then like being a writer and then like a film director, is like the project that I'm working on, they actually gonna be put together and come out. And we did a lot. We did everything we had to do out of pocket. We never had no budget. We didn't have no big resources. We didn't have no help. It was just us putting our money together, mainly me and my partner, and just creating our whatever resources we didn't have and just leveraging that. So that's
I,
kind of
I
like
definitely remember when you were filming that. I remember watching a lot of the behind the scenes and seeing the different individuals that were a part.
yeah,
And maybe just a couple months ago, I think that you posted about one of the actors that passed away. That was a
yeah,
part of that film.
yeah.
What do you symbolize as an individual, as an entrepreneur, as a young man chasing his dreams in Philadelphia to other young men
Right.
that look up to you? For a sense of inspiration and, like you said, upliftment. What do you represent to those young men?
I think I represent what I would say is a blueprint that looks different than what we accustomed to. Because like me, myself, I pride myself on being myself and I encourage people that it's okay to be yourself. Like, you know what I mean? I think that that's like one of the common things that's often like shunned upon internally. Like people's biggest fear is being themselves. That's how I would say. So I think for me, I symbolize like just being fearless and being yourself and going for what you want and knowing that you don't gotta follow the herd, you can lead the pack. Because there's like so many people that's talented in other ways, but they limit themselves to what they see might work for other people. For me, I always followed the road less traveled, not because I was trying to be different, but because that's just the things that interested me. So when people look up to me and they say I motivate them, it's because they understood that I faced adversity, as does every kid from the circumstances and the background that we come from. But I didn't fall victim to that, and to where though I kind of just like stayed back. It's like I went for what I want. You know what I mean? I'm still going for what I want. And the kids that's watching me is like I'm showing them like even becoming an entrepreneur, like providing the resources that I didn't have. Like I'm really a resource. I serve as a resource for a lot of kids that's coming up, like beyond mentorship. Like my words, I use my words, I use my platform, and I uplift and I inspire. But at the same time, I got my hands in a lot of things that's going on, and people already know if you can reach the wolf, he can get it done. You know what I'm saying? So I just know like that's something that I wish I had coming up. I wish I had somebody that I knew could have an impact on changing my life for the better if I could get in touch with them. And I'm accessible. Like I'm still local. I didn't, you know what I mean? And even if I'm not, I'm still called away.
What are some of the businesses that you've started that have taught you valuable lessons about being a successful entrepreneur?
Um w- uh Shoot, how far back you want me to go?
Let's start now. Let's bring them up to speed a little bit.
Yeah, because I started a lot of businesses. I would say I learned most of my I would say I learned most of my see because different businesses taught me different lessons. I
Mhm.
had a hair salon for 3 years. I had a clothing line for years. I got a marketing company that I had for years. I had two different independent record labels that one is still currently what we operate under Wall Street Entertainment. But each leg of my success has just strengthened our foundation. It kind of weighed out the naysayers and the people that was like in it for the short term. It gave me a lot of experience within running a business, within businesses failing, like you know what I mean, how to rebrand and just different things like that. But like it just like I look forward to that. I feel like we don't learn nothing behind success. We only learn behind what would be considered to be failures. I never seen nobody make adjustments after success. They just kind of keep repeating the cycle. But when you do something wrong, is where all of the adjustments are made. So, like I took pride and I value all of our setbacks for everything that we ever did, all the businesses that I ever started that didn't go completely the way I wanted to. Because now each business that I start beyond that, or each journey or endeavor I go on, I'm more equipped with more experience. So right now, currently, I got my marketing company, First Step Marketing. We help aid and assist entrepreneurs and small businesses with the resources. You know what I mean? We do business registration, web design. We do consulting. We do branding. You know what I mean? We also got a real estate company. We in the process of launching a fashion line. We got an entertainment company. And then I got my own personal brand, which is The Wolf Has Spoken, which is what most people are seeing being pushed right now. So it's like that's what I got my hands in. But we help people with financial literacy and restoring credit, building credit. Like we just resourceful. You know what I mean? Like we just really like pretty much you call my phone for anything, we can get it done.
You say
How I look
"we"
at
a
it.
lot, so that I'm assuming obviously there's no way that you are doing this all by yourself and in so many different places. So how does this all happen? Like all of these businesses, how does it happen?
Understanding your role, like understanding what you can contribute to each. Like if we got 10 tables, like you can't be the head of every table. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's where humbleness and humility comes in that because like it's understanding like how to be adjustable. So like I serve a different purpose for everything that we do. I would consider myself to be a valuable asset to everything we do, as I would consider everybody that's a part of everything we do. But it's just knowing like and being I'm passionate about everything that I got my hands in. And with me having so much respect for my passion, I don't oversaturate myself or overextend myself. So yes, you will hear we a lot because I got a team. And like my team look different at each table, but everybody comes with the common goal of getting whatever it is done that needs to be done. So this is how I'm able to have my hands in so much because I might just be micromanaging one company, whereas another within another particular company, I'm like all the way hands on and hands in. So it's just like being able to create that empire. Like you could run it from the top, but it's gonna be a lot of things going on at the ground level that still need to be connected in order for the top to succeed too. So that's how we are able to do things, just by being in a position and playing our position.
Mhm. Mhm. Who are some of those gurus or teachers that you have turned to for help to refine your approach, your perspective on life, your business systems that have helped you become better over the years?
Um, I leaned a lot on my older sister. I had a cousin that's also a woman who I got a lot of my perspective like outside of like the individual experiences and the things that might have been presented to me, but like just the mature perspective of women. I got that from. I had a cousin that taught me a lot when I was younger, but as I got older, I started to lean more on like honestly like I've never had like that direct mentorship, like from somebody where I could be like, yeah, I learned and I studied this person. It was just more so me just being observative of life around me. And me being observative of the things that like I experienced, other people around me experienced. And then once I started reading, I started making these authors my mentors because I learned a lot about perspective and about life through these different books that I pick up. Some of my favorite books and my favorite written by my favorite authors have really helped shape my perspective. But other than that, I really haven't had a mentor where I could be like, yeah, I had this mentor that walked me through this, I walked me through that. It was really just life mentoring me. Wherever I found myself at, I just like took what I can from whoever was around at the time.
A lot of your viewers can relate to that perspective of maybe not being able to have a direct mentor because you're someone who has kind of become a mentor to a lot of people. They don't know you, but they watch you, they listen to you. Your social media talks have went viral at some point. I remember watching. What encourages you to be brave enough to share your unique perspective, despite the fact that people may disagree oftentimes?
Because I believe in challenging my own perspective. So I put it out there for people to challenge it. I think that like the only way like we can learn is by being enlightened to different perspectives. Only when we allow ourselves to understand and be understanding in a sense. So for me, it's like I feel like people will fight for their right to be wrong when they don't challenge what they think they already know. So you can't grow if you don't challenge what you think you already know. And I think that a lot of the things that I did learn, I had to recondition my own mindset. So once I realized that the amount of deep conditioning that I had to do, I just wanted to kind of put my perspective out there for the people who may have never been enlightened to that perspective. And I don't really worry about people disagreeing because I know that we all entitled to our own opinion and our own perspective. And like that's fine. I think that's where we all go wrong. Like everybody wants to be right. I don't look at a right or wrong thing. I just look at it like, it's a perspective thing. You know what I mean? But it's like it's only wrong when you fail to identify with somebody else's perspective due to you, just wanting to remain in the position of being right. So like I think I was that way coming up. You know what I mean? And I think that once I got enlightened to like, yo, you can see it this way, I can see it that way, and neither one of us be wrong, I became okay with that. So I try to encourage that in the world. And the best way to do that is to throw another perspective out that's not often said.
Yeah.
And like most people might
Yo, I
disagree on the
appreciate you, bro.
surface, but a
For
lot
real,
of
for
things that I
real.
say, but when they
Yeah, you
dig
got it, bro.
into
You
it,
got it.
when they allow themselves to be open to the new perspective, then it starts to make more sense, whether they choose to run with it or not. And I'm perfectly fine with that. But I wanted to say something in regards to you speaking on just like not being a direct mentor, but being able to mentor people. I just want to say something briefly. That's exactly why I do what I do. Because I always say, like, I want to impact millions of people. I might can't reach millions of people personally, but my words can. My words can travel. My words can heal. So if we look at like some of the great leaders of the past, like Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, the platforms was different. They might could get 50,000 people out to speak publicly in front of them, but now we got social media. I could still speak in front of 50 to 100,000 to a million people and tap these people in a 1 minute video with the click of a button. So with that being that, is like I see my platform as powerful as they seen theirs. So I want to, if I'm like, if I can't, like, they're not here today to impact us, but the stuff that they did back then is still being impacting today, still creating that impact. So I look at myself no different. I want to be able to create that avenue of mentorship with that kid that might be a million miles away, but just because he can get to my platform, he can get the same conversation he would have got if he was sitting right next to me. So I think that that's important.
And so we got to talk a lot about, all of the different life developments that have made you the man you are today. But let's kind of swing things around now to talk about how you came out with this book, Cheating is Not Cheating, which a lot of people have argued with you about. They have chastised you. They have told you were wrong. Some people have read the book and said that you have completely changed their perspective. I was reading the book and I wanted to fight in the beginning. I was like, me and him are going to have to fight. But as I started to read more and more and getting deeper into those meteor chapters, my guard started to come down and I got to understand where you were coming from. Now, for my viewers, I'm not saying that I agree with him 100%, but I do understand the perspective and I want you to talk a little bit more. But before you get to that, what makes you qualified to have this conversation? Have you not been the most faithful in your relationships?
So I think that I think that a lot of times people allow the 4 words to like puzzle them and just like disregard that. It's like 200 pages of like me breaking it down. Like it's valuable information beyond these 4 words. But everybody just highlights the 4 words, which is fine because we got a lot of headline readers like that exist in the world. And that's fine. But for me, yeah, like the book is not just solely based upon cheating. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like way deeper than that. So it's like if we want to talk about infidelities, I've cheated, I've been cheated on. Like, you know what I mean? But that this book isn't written from my perspective. I didn't write it and was like, granted, it wasn't like, yeah, this is what I did and this is what happened to me and this is why I feel the way I feel. Like you won't get, it's not one page in there that's about me. And there's not another page in there that'll be me justifying that cheating is okay. So just because I say cheating is not me saying like go out and cheat. Like I don't say that not once in the book. You know what I mean? But it doesn't take away from the logical fact that cheating is not cheating. And like you can learn that within the first 2 chapters, but you read the whole entire book, by the end of it, you'll get it in total. And I always can tell based on how somebody reacts to me, what chapter they're at. Like I'd be like, okay, that's still like at chapter 3. Because if a woman like is like want to fight, like they get to that point, I know it's some, but honestly, like, can we be honest when we say like it only makes it that way because it can appear as if like I'm breaking a woman down from a perspective that most women wouldn't expect a man to understand. So it makes it like almost like a defense thing. Like, is he coming at me? You know what I mean? But in reality, I'm really not. I'm just really pointing out something that I'm trying to enlighten men, as if I was breaking down a man in a perspective for a woman to understand. A man can feel like, is he coming at me? But I'm not. I'm just like putting it out there for the opposite sex to understand.
You say in the book that it is written for men and women seeking an understanding of one another. But at the age that you're at, how have you been able to develop this perspective that spans multi-generational, multicultural man and women relations?
It came when I started to, all right, so I realized, right? I started to realize that we really operate out of nature. Like I'll speak on that a lot. I talk about nature. Like before there's anything else, there's a human nature. As there is a mother nature, a day follows night, night follows day, winter follows summer, summer follows winter. It's just this human nature, right? So that's not contingent to your age. That, you know what I mean? Now, granted, like you might develop more, you might grow more through the years, but if you watch a movie from 1930, you'll see that the relationship issues were the same. So if I can go back almost 100 years and connect the same issues that's occurring 100 years later, then I could develop the perspective that this is going to be going on for 100 years to come. Now, the details would be different, but that's why I didn't focus too much on the details. I wanted to focus on the overall aspect of what's going on. So a lot of times, your research my research isn't limited to my years on this earth. You understand what I'm saying? So like I've been here for 27 years, but my research can go back 500 years.
Mhm.
And I could create this perspective based on like, oh, this is the same narrative that was going on 200 years ago and it's going on today. So it just kind of goes from there. So it's not really like a thing where it's like based. That's why I said it's not personal. It's not like me just looking at my individual experiences. Although they do help shape my authenticity and my perspective because of the different experiences I have. It's not limited to that. And I'm very good at a lot. I can connect with people whether I'm directly involved in a situation or not. Like you could be going through something and I can understand exactly where you feel and connect emotionally to you at your vibration frequency without ever having to experience it. See what I'm saying? So it stops me from minimizing that experience. So, I can't be a woman. I'm not saying that I can identify with all of the things that women go through, and I never try to, but I do create compassion and empathy just off the simple fact that I try to connect at that realm. Like it's certain, I would never be able to understand childbirth because it's not something that I can do. You know what I mean? But I can empathize. But in other areas, when we start talking about our emotions, something that can be like cross-reference from man to woman, then yeah, I don't have a problem with connecting on that level at all.
Would you identify yourself as a relationship expert?
I think the people have identified me as a relationship expert.
Hmm. Hmm. In what ways? How have you?
Um, so talk to me. Like when you say what way, like
In
explain.
what ways have they, made you this person that can speak to healing or helping relationships? Have you had personal testimonies? Have
Yeah,
you,
yeah, millions. Like maybe not millions. Well, yeah, shoot, millions because my videos have touched a lot of people. But just like personal, like I always was like the go-to guy since I was a kid. Like I was giving my mom relationship advice as a kid. You know what I mean? My sisters, like close friends, distant people, and it just became the trend. Whereas though people would come to me for relationship advice, I did not understand. I never looked at myself as different from the common, person. I never came into this world or even to anything I ever did thinking like that I knew more than the next person. You know what I'm saying? That was never my approach. That was always the response. Like I never understood what I would be saying that I would think that men thought like me. I never assumed that I thought different. I would think that women could understand where I'm coming from, right? That women thought like me. I never thought that like my perspective was different. It wasn't until me hearing it constantly that made me realize that okay, it may be something that I may be onto that other people may not be, and they appreciate me enlightening them to it. So, like I said, it just comes from like people coming and trusting in me. I never understood why people felt so comfortable with me to tell me their deepest and like most treasured things. And like, granted, I'm not judgmental. I'm very understanding. I'm a good listener, and then I only provide necessary advice. You know what I mean? So with that being the case, I know that about myself, but I still didn't see that as unique until, like I said, a variety of times in which it happened. And then people started to say these things. Like, I don't call myself the GOAT. I leave that up to the people.
I don't want to get too deep into all of the nuts and bolts of the book because I don't want to give it away. I want people to get out there and buy and check it out for themselves. But there is a line in there that you talk about that the book is written to save a nation of people from suffering behind views and opinions of society that cause people to hate their reality. What are some of those viewpoints that you are talking about that are initially challenged in the beginning of the book?
I think that people they don't have their own understanding as to what they consider to be love, or even like what love or what like I understand that love is energy, you know what I mean? But I
Mhm.
think that people they disregard that and they focus more on love being an emotion and then they attach it to things that like may warrant temporary love, but that's not, for longevity in a sense of like just like how people become so superficial and materialistic and thinking like that that's the foundation and the base of their relationship or just in how they view cheating. Like I don't feel like nobody even asks themselves what they consider to be cheating. You know what I mean? We allow the world to impose what we should and shouldn't be okay with. So I say we're hating our reality because, like India, like you could be a monogamous woman that wants a husband, and that could be the relationship you want. And I could be a man that believes in polygamy, and that could be a relationship I want. Society would turn our views against each other. So now one of us is going to be forced to hate our own reality in order to fall in line. And I just think that that's unfair. And I think that the whole goal is doing what makes you happy. That's why I say it's to save a nation because in my book, I challenge people to do what makes them happy, despite what somebody might think or say, as long as it's not in compromising of the person you're with. Because I feel like happiness should be an alignment. It shouldn't be a compromise. It should be an adjustment. Love should be an adjustment, never a compromise. I shouldn't have to give up something I love for the person I love. I feel like I'm going to find a person that loves me for what I love and vice versa. So I feel like everybody settles for whoever they confine and tries to change that person. And then they tend to hate the reality, because if I like writing books and you hate reading, and like I'm not going, what I'm supposed to not write no more because the person I'm with don't want me to do it in order for us to work out. And then I'm gonna start to hate my reality, because in reality I'm doing something against what naturally makes me feel good. So that's why I say it's written to save a nation, because I slow the conversation down, and I ask people to internalize. So many people want to point the finger. Everybody wants to be the victim, you know what I mean? And for me, I'm an accountability type of person. I don't believe in allowing somebody to play the victim and when there's the opportunity to take accountability for what you could and couldn't do. You know what I'm saying? So with that being the case, it's like if I ask everybody to stop saying this girl made me that way, this guy made me that way, and they internalize and just figure out how they can be better. We all can be better internally, then we can be better externally. If everybody in the world fixed themselves without trying to fix somebody else, then the world would be a better place. So I think that it starts within.
Why do you believe that men and women have a hard time understanding one another despite reading books like yours and many others that have attempted to address issues between men and women for years? Why do you think that this problem or this tension or this confusion still exists?
I think it literally just comes down to people's emotions being attached to their logic a lot of the times. So like I think that men and women don't have a problem with understanding each other when there's no emotions involved. I think that you can have a relationship. I think that if you're having a conversation with a male friend and y'all not dealing with each other on and to that level, I think that it could be a very logical and rational conversation that could be had, as long as nobody attaches their emotions to the conversation. So like this where the confusion comes in, because it becomes more personal than intended. So I always say like that men have to be open to the suggestions of a woman, women have to be open to the suggestions of a man to see improvement. But if every time a suggestion is made, it reverts back to something that may trigger you for something you may have experienced that was less than what you wanted, then this is why no growth and development can be made, because it's almost like beating a dead horse in that sense. So I don't know what approach most people took when trying to articulate these things, but for me, I know I focus on internalizing and trying to just become better within yourself. Because the moment you become better for yourself, you can be better for somebody else. And that's not limited to just like, going on a spiritual journey and like, but it's like that's a part of it, but it's just not limited to that. It's like also wanting to understand and like be like not just be understood. Everybody wants to be understood, but don't want to understand. And I don't think it works like that. And the moment you understand yourself, you can understand people. Like me, I don't have no resentment, no guilt, no hatred towards anybody, because it's a reflection of how I feel within inside. I don't have no reason to.
You talked about it a little earlier, being a father at a very young age,
Yeah.
and now can I ask, you have a child or do you have children?
I got two daughters.
2 daughters, okay, and so now being a father and taking all the things that you've learned, how have you prepared to have this conversation about dating and love and all of these things that come with it, one day with your 2 daughters?
So first, I try to. I'm having a conversation like silently by leading by example, as like as good as I can within how I interact with them and how I treat them. I don't make promises that I can't keep. I don't stand them up. I don't make life out to be a fairy tale, and I don't try to appear to be perfect. I just be dad. I know it's days that they're gonna like what I'm saying. I know it's days that they're not gonna like what I'm saying. But as authentic as possible, I create a genuine relationship from son to daughter, but at the same time, just being the first example of a man that they have. I don't expose my children to like me dealing with like a bunch of women, or like I'm not disrespectful to women, or like I don't like do things around them that I wouldn't want them to find okay when they get older. So that's like the first conversation I have without having it actually. But as far as in planning to have that conversation with them, I just plan on being like open with them. I tell my kids, one is 4, she'll be 5 soon. I have an 11-year-old, and I just explain like I just want that level of comfort to where they feel like they can talk to me about anything without judgment. And I tell them they'll never like disappoint me for telling the truth. They're only a lie. And I always tell them that I'm always support them doing what they want to do. I don't support them doing anything for the likes of somebody else. And that's just kind of like how the conversation has been gauged now. So like if my daughter wants to date a man and this is her preference, I'm not going to impose what I prefer for her on her. I'm going to support her, and I'm just going to be the guardrails to her, being doing whatever she got to do throughout her life, and that goes for both of them. But right now, I'm just speaking in regards to my 11-year-old, who I will see being dating, of course, before my 4-year-old. So right now, I just try to have that open dialogue with her, and she comes to me, we talk. And I don't hide the world from my kids. Like I let them see the reality of what goes on, and I explain it to them. as opposed to trying to act like life is not like. I felt like so many people were shielded from the realities of life, and I wasn't. Like I said, my mom did things for us and with us as a kid to prepare us for the reality of the real world, and that's what I do for my daughters now. So when they do start dating, they're gonna at least know what a good man should look like from a moral standpoint. I provide for them, like just like integrity, dignity, things like that. I can't be everything for them because like I'm not gonna engage with them in that way, but I can be an example of what a good man looks like. And then when I do get a woman and I have a wife, then they'll be able to see what a healthy relationship look like. But they did get a taste of that when I was in my first relationship for 6 years. So like they did see me interact with my girlfriend for that time frame, so they do know that like how I treat women when I'm with them. But if I'm just dating, I kind of like don't bring that aspect into my life with my kids.
Naturally speaking, I understand why you wouldn't. Do you plan on gifting them this book when they become of age to help navigate through the space of dating?
Yeah, because honestly, like I encourage everybody to read it. I like my daughter know I wrote a book, but she know the title. She 11. It ain't like but it just wouldn't resonate with her right now. But
Mhm.
I told her just the other day. I said I wrote this book because I want your kids to be able to have an understanding for how their grandpa thought and the impact that he wanted to have on the world. So it's like she's going to get over there and read it, but it's not just for her. It's for her kids and their kids and their kids. And this is forever for them to say, like, my grandpa wrote that book or my dad wrote this book. And like this is going to be more to come. So it's like leaving a legacy that will exceed my life on this planet. So and that's what it's really about. And it's like I know that they're going to read it because like if I just briefly can run y'all through the names of the chapters so we get past the title. Okay, we got cheating and not cheating in chapter 1. What is cheating? Chapter 2. Men versus women cheating. Chapter 3. Can a man commit capital behavior? That's chapter 4. A woman committing manslaughter. That's chapter 5. Manslaughter versus capital. Understanding the term. That's chapter 6. Then it takes a turn. Chapter 7. Intent changes everything. Explaining my point. Chapter 8. Stop ignoring the double standard. Chapter 9. Pride and ego. Chapter 10. His weak ego made him do it. Her strong pride couldn't let it go. Chapter 11. Should you forgive? Chapter 12, how to forgive. Chapter 13, things to take with you. So the first 4 of the 5 chapters in my book is about relationship. After that, it goes into life. So it's like the messages is deeper. It's like, it's deeper than the title. It's deeper than what people might see in the 4 words. It's like I'm talking about pride and ego. We're talking about forgiveness. This is things that people struggle with. Like this is a life. There's life lessons in here that bulge way beyond the boundaries of what a relationship can and cannot do for someone. So that's why I think it's just like a good read for anybody. And I can't wait for my kids to get older and read this book. They're going to love it.
Do you have anything that you feel like you left out of the book that you wanted to include, but it just wasn't the time for it, or maybe you thought of it later on? Was there anything that you felt like you left out?
In this book, honestly, no. Only because like I have other perspectives that I want to touch on in other areas that even coincide with relationships. Like I want to write a book on breakups. I want to write a book on like just different things, right? But within this particular book, for the point that I wanted to get across, I felt like I sat on it until I felt comfortable enough to not have that feeling. That was my biggest fear. Was like I don't want to publish a book and then be like, dang, I should have. So I actually went through the process and I was like, I'm not gonna rush it. And it came out relatively fast, but like for me, I didn't rush that feeling. Like I don't have that feeling at all. I felt like I thought about the perspective that people would think about. I thought about the narrative that would be created and could be created. And I prepared myself for any praise or any backlash that could have came from the book before I put it out. So I was like completely comfortable with what the world was getting. I wasn't gonna put it out until I was.
Were there any challenges that you experienced while writing, publishing, or distributing the book?
I mean, like I wrote and edited it myself. So outside of the time I dedicated to it, I did everything myself. Wrote, edited, published it. Like, you know what I mean? I had a few of my friends look over it when it was done, but like outside of like I had like one guy, he helped me with formatting, which was like creating it into paragraph form so I can and not paragraph form, but like for the book, like being able to format the book to be printed. But outside of that, like I literally like the only I think I would say, but that was like the part that I enjoyed the most. So like I can't say I had any resistance because like I love writing and then I love going over my work because I attempted to have it edited, but I did that with one of my scripts one time and like somebody sent me something back written in a different tone. And like me personally, I don't want like the tonality of what I'm saying to change because it takes away from what I'm saying. So I just didn't even waste my time sending it out to an editor. I just wanted people that was like, readers or, had a history and like just being able to spot errors and different things like that to go over it behind me. But No, I didn't have no resistance. It was just like I was ready. Like the biggest resistance for me was the COVID-19, the
Mm,
coronavirus, because
mm.
it impacted the way I could release the book. And like unfortunate time for a lot of people, and it threw off a lot of stuff. So like that was like the biggest thing. But the success I was able to sustain through this year has been truly a blessing, and it let me know that like whenever like this subsides and we get away from it and we are able to like get it under control and kind of move past it, I know like how much success I still got just from the ability to be able to move around and like socialize. So
Yeah.
like I'm looking forward to like that aspect of it. But yeah, other than that, like it's been all gravy for me. I
Yeah.
prepared myself.
Yeah, yeah. I saw you even going to LA and doing different interviews. I've
Yeah,
seen now that it's in Barnes and Noble, it's in Walmart, it's in all
yeah,
of these different places. Serious congratulations to you because
appreciate that.
again, being in the midst of a pandemic, it's not easy to be able to have the same, opportunities
Yeah.
to be able to do the things that you've been doing. So that's really, really awesome. Talk to me about any upcoming opportunities that may be surrounding around the book for your viewers and your readers. Will there be any, I don't know, virtual events that you'll be having or anything like that that's surrounded particularly around the book?
So I will be having a book signing November 24th. It's not virtual, but it can be like a blend because I will be streaming live. But it is limited to the amount of attendance due to the COVID-19, and we are still practicing safe and social distancing in all of the spaces that we do occupy. But I do want to kind of get that real human engagement and interaction, at least like before this year is out with the book, especially because another thing I'm working on another book, and I'm working on film. So like my 2021 is going to consist of me finishing my second book. Not sure if I'm going to publish it that year, but I'm going to be going like heavily into film. I'm currently working on a documentary, and yeah, just that. As far as any virtual events, I'll be featured on a few networks, like a few major networks. I won't disclose because I'm not sure if I'm able to.
Oh man.
Yeah, I'm just not sure. I just wouldn't want to. I don't want another producer to hit me up like, "Hey, we
Right. Well, when you find out, hopefully you'll come drop the big news here on Up with
Yeah,
India.
yeah, I definitely will give y'all the exclusive once I'm cleared to. But yeah, it's just up from there. And for anybody that is watching, that's just doing something. Just understand, like, I'm a kid from the urban communities, from poverty, from everything we come from everything that we're accustomed to. And even if you don't relate to my background, you can relate to the fact that like I didn't allow nothing to stop me, even through the unfortunate events of this year. Just being able to find alternatives and still being able to create success behind it, because it's been difficult for a lot of people. But the one thing that I didn't allow to be deteriorated was my mind and my like just my ambition and just like my will to just not give up. So I always felt like, through the modified circumstances that happened like abruptly and just like to no one's timing, it's just like being able to find an alternative and a solution in that. So like when y'all look at my success, just understand like it came from my mindset of just knowing that I'm gonna find a way. Like that's always what it's been. And it's like I didn't have any major contribution from anybody. All of the marketing was done by me. Everything that I came up, my campaigns I've done, you know what I mean, with the help of my team, but more so single-handedly in this regard, just being able to leverage my platform to the best of my ability, in which I built from the ground up. So it's just saying that you can start with nothing, from nothing, and still become something. And that's like what, if I don't display nothing, I display that. I don't have no, like I didn't have no help at all. And it's not this, no, when I say no help, let me not I want to make sure I'm putting it out there correctly. I had help of my supporters and my friends. But I'm saying like it wasn't a gateway that was just paved. We knocked the door down. We walked through, we walked the path, we went against the adversity and we prevailed. And you can do the same whether you by yourself or with just the people that you grew up with or the people that you met along the way. You don't need that big opportunity to create you. You could create that big opportunity just by doing what you got to do. And that's what I was able to do. Now they featuring me on major platforms. I'm being gossiped about on huge networks. Like, I love it
So bad.
because I represent something. Like, I represent something. Like no matter if you agree with my views or not, like I'm a black man doing something that they never put in front of us. They didn't tell us that this is the way we can get rich or become successful. So like when kids out there now, they can look and say, I want to be like Naiym. I want to be like the wolf because he did it a different way. I know how to write. I'm smart. He showed me that you can be black and do the same thing. And I think that's important.
Mhm. Where can people find you and keep up with you? All of this inspiration, knowledge, and gems that you've dropped for us. I do not want you to leave without people being able to keep up with you and your brand.
Okay, yeah. I got a website, thewolfhasspoken.com. You can follow me on Instagram at wolfwse, on Twitter at wolfwse underscore. I'm Googleable, like humbly saying, but like you can like literally just like locate me there. And as far as like just being able to bump into me, like I be around, like I show a lot of love. I make a lot of appearances. I try to get as involved as I possibly can. So yeah, like I'm around. But if you're just looking to follow the journey, just at with WSC, hit me up, and that's just that. I definitely want to tip my hat to India. Big shout out to you. I know I've seen your journey since college. You know what I mean? You're one of the most hardworking women I have ever met, had the opportunity to work with. I commend you on all of your success. And like, you got my full support and backing. And, like we always bridge those gaps. And as often as we can connect, we tend to do so. So that's
Absolutely.
what's up. So I tip my hat to you as well.
Thank you so much. And thank you to all of you for watching. And you can always tune in back here for weekday updates and information in the morning on Up with India. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Walking around here with our hands held high. Only thing that matters is our life. Walking around here with our hands held high. We can do anything if we try.